world. This is Hello Chaos, the podcast about the ups and downs, ins and outs, highlights and low points of entrepreneurship. I am Jennifer Oladipo, aka Jenno.
And I am Jennifer Sutton, aka JJ. We've workshopped that.
Exactly.
And today we have Kenzie Biggins, who is the CEO and visionary for Worxbee. Welcome, Kenzie.
Thank you, ladies. I feel like you're a rock star, honestly. Like,
I'll take it.
We call her It's the Force. She's the Force.
I'm working on stepping into my light. So yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, accept that. Breathe
Take
it in.
it all
Breathe
in.
it in.
Yes.
Okay, so tell folks about why you're a rock star, or at least about your business, if that's too much.
Oh, I was like, well, as a child, I thought I was going to be a rock star, but outside of that, so let's see, I started Worxbee in 2013. We're almost at 10 years.
Wow.
Which is wild.
Crazy.
And I started because of a graduate thesis all about improving the American economy through the production of luxury goods. So really focused on how do we take this highly skilled labor force and connect them to meaningful work to help stabilize their households.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So definitely more of a mission behind what we do that a lot of people don't know about or understand.
Mm-hmm.
But we found an opportunity to focus in on executive assistants, and that is our crew. Those are our people. We focus on their skills. We focus on how amazing they are and how to pair them with the right client for who they are as an individual and how they communicate, but also, once again, stabilizing their households and really appreciating their skills that they bring to the table.
So since 2013, how many pivots have you gone through?
Ooh, we're in one right now. No, I mean, we're kind of like, so here's the thing. Let's skip to basketball terminology, right?
Okay.
Oh.
So in basketball terms, when you pivot, you keep one foot on the ground, you
Right.
just move the other one.
Right.
I feel like a lot of people talk about pivots and they're like, I hopped off of my path and took a plane to a brand new city and started a new journey on a trail. Yes, I was on a road before, but I'm on a trail now. And I'm like, that's not a pivot. That's like a brand new business.
That's
right.
What? So we have several pivots more about how we structure and how we operate. We are in the midst of one right now. We're actually raising money, which will be closing around next week, which is
Ding, ding.
very exciting.
We need a bell.
You're right, right?
And we'll put a pin in it because I have a couple of questions
Yeah,
on that.
because I'm like,
yeah.
as a Black woman, that's like
That's
really exciting.
Yeah.
Yes. But several pivots, but now we're pivoting to a place of everything administrative as far as exceptional administrative solutions.
Okay.
And how do we, one, not just offer EAs, but how do we also offer assistance, but help those assistants grow into that EA level? So how do we give them
Okay.
ongoing training, education, community engagement, resources to take them to the next level? And you're talking about for a group that primarily are women, saying, $35,000 to $40,000 a year for their household to like 60 to 80, even 100 for their household. So we're really looking at what is the overall impact we can make.
Yeah.
Because the group I think needs this most, which they may not know it or acknowledge it yet, are really corporations, because who are going to be their EAs
Right.
in the next 15 years? Like there's
Right.
been so many layoffs of EAs. A lot of EAs are getting ready to retire. Where do they come from? Because there's no you can't go to Clemson and get a degree in how to be an amazing EA.
And I don't think that's something that someone's like, I'm going to wake up and aspire to be an EA.
Right.
I mean, you and I have talked about this of like what the myth of an EA versus just an admin assistant.
Yes.
And they're not the same.
No, an EA is really an executive on your team. And for people who are like, oh, they're just the help. No, they're not just the help. Like your EA, my EA currently is in financial training with the rest of our leadership team. So when they send budgets to me, she can evaluate them before they get to me to be like, Kenzie's going to ask you about these things. And she knows enough about it
Yeah.
to ask the questions. Like
Yeah.
my EA could probably run the company if something happened to me. And a lot of people don't view their EAs
Yeah.
like that. It's just like, check the item off the list. Also, people aren't good at identifying EA talent, which is hilarious to me, but it also is why we exist. But,
Yeah.
people, it's usually another EA who looks at someone and says like, oh, you have the ability to do this. Like, come with me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let me go. Oh, wait, can I say that?
Yeah.
I'm not going to get y'all dinged by
No.
somebody. But
I don't know. It's getting wild out there.
Right? But, come with me. Let me teach you my ways. Let me show you how this works. It really
Yeah.
is that peer mentor relationship that creates EAs.
So how did you identify the need and like the viability of creating a pathway from the assistant to the executive assistant? What facilitated that?
Right. So there's such a long story to this. I mean, it starts, but I'm going to make it short. There's one, like how the company started, which I started getting tons of questions about virtual assistants, and then was meeting with a retiring Coca-Cola executive who was like, I need help. And it's not an assistant. Right. So that's what really started us on our journey. But also, as we look at talent long term and we look at our growth plan, it's like, how are we finding that talent? And then we also do permanent placement searches for C-suites. And it is literally a beg, borrow, steal for EAs right now.
Really?
Like people are taking from other companies because they're not able to develop their own internal talent. So we're like, okay, this is an opportunity. And now, you know, one, there's been a lot because of the pandemic. Before, corporations are like, remote. No. Now they're like, maybe. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Right. But the next question out of their mouth is like, how do we train? How do we keep them engaged?
Yeah.
So
And that's
I'm
what
good
you're
at
gonna
listening. Like, okay, this is what you need.
All
Let me
right.
go figure that out. Yeah.
So, you know, as we talked about funding, because when you and I met several years ago, you know, you and I were both in that kindred spirit of, I don't know if I want to fund it. I'm not sure I want to let go of ownership. What changed in that?
Yeah.
In that thinking.
So one was listening to a podcast.
That's the theme today.
Right? So two things happened. One, we were featured on a segment on 60 Minutes
Yeah.
about the big quit.
Yeah.
And so after that happened, all of a sudden I started getting all these unsolicited notes on LinkedIn like, well, have you thought about investment? Are you looking for an investor? I'd be interested in investing in you. And so I reached out to two individuals who I consider like confidants, but like keep it real, who both founded companies, exited companies. And, you know, the question from both of them was, do you feel like you can take an amount of money and make a huge difference in the trajectory of your business? They're like, you're not taking in money to grow to the same point you were going to grow to before.
Right.
You're taking in money to leapfrog that and do like 4 times what you thought you could do before. And can you prove that out and make it happen? And I was like, oh, okay, let me think about this, because the equity thing is very real. Like, you know, I've owned 100% of my company for a very long time. We've taken in very, very little money before and paid all those folks back. So it was still like a hard pill to swallow. Like, can I, and how do I do this? And how do I give them equity or part of my business? You're essentially selling part of your business. And then a podcast. So how I built this, what's the name of the company?
Fantastic podcast.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I forgot the name of the company. They do book reviews online and sold to Amazon. But he made the comment of, you know, if someone comes along and offers you money, can you afford not to take it? Like, what's going to be the difference?
That's
Like, if you go back, he's like, if someone comes along and says, hey, I want to give you $500,000. Like, if you go 5 years down the road, what would have happened to you if you didn't take that money? And are you doing the best thing for your team? You know, I say my greatest joy is also my greatest struggle and trauma and stress, which is making sure like these people are paid and we're continuing to grow and supporting these households. You know, how do I not take in the money if I know we can do so much more and help so many more people?
Right.
And so what is it that you're hoping that it will allow you to do?
So it really is our 3 major focuses as we look at closing this round. Of course, continuing to offer service, but also offering training and really verification of skills, not just hard skills, but soft skills.
Okay.
But also looking at resources as far as relationship building. So one of the big pain points is people don't know how to build relationships with EAs. People don't know how to build relationships,
Right.
but people don't know how to build relationships with EAs, right? So how do we help them with that? And a lot of that comes down to, one, we need the systems and processes in place to make it happen. So paying for technology. I mean, you know, Salesforce is amazing, but Salesforce is not free and it's not an off-the-shelf tool.
Right.
Also continuing to have the team that we need in order to make it run. Luckily, we use a system called Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, which has made it very black and white to us as far as like what team members we need and why and what they do.
Right.
But then the last big piece of it too is brand exposure, right? Because following 60 Minutes, the phone calls were, why haven't we known about you? Like, where have you been all my life, right? Which makes you feel like, oh.
You're like,
But that is the question. Like, a lot of our competitors who aren't even directly in our space, they really focus on the virtual assistant versus the virtual executive assistant. They have a lot more marketing dollars. They've been taking in investment since day one. So how do we help more people know our name and who we are? And, you know, when they're trying to figure out like, I I need help. I need someone higher level. Where do I find them? Like, we need to pop up easily. They need to be able to find us easily.
Well, and again, it's that's that category cell of what is an executive assistant versus just an admin.
Yes.
Or an assistant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, that's one of the really interesting things is, when you have a business where there's a big education gap, how do you go about doing that?
So much education.
Because I mean, when I was working for
Education.
myself, that was for me like the spot, like, oh, I'll find people who have like a complex, high value thing that they just need to keep engaging with and teaching people about and helping them understand, as far as content marketing.
Right. And that's the whole thing, right? How do we make most of our content marketing about education? Because for most people, if you don't understand the difference, when all of a sudden you get this education to what an EA is, you're like, well, why don't I have that?
Right.
Well, I need that. Like, what? Why is it so confusing? Why is this not a thing? Because assistants really, it's task driven for assistants.
Okay.
It's also something where a lot of companies are taking recent college graduates and being like, I'm gonna make you an assistant. But I'm like, do they like supporting people? Do they like routine tasks? Do they like, being told what to do all the time? And also
will they also create systems to help
right?
the executive?
And for the leader, are you willing to sit down and give somebody instructions every single day? Do you want to give that person a checklist every day? Because also for some people who've never experienced being an assistant, you can be like, clean the table. But if you don't say it every day, it's not happening. Like, they don't take it and say, just going to clean the table every day. Versus the EA would be like, the table needs to get cleaned. So I'm guessing it needs to happen every day. Maybe not every day. Okay, so use once a week. All right, so we'll clean it. We'll set up this process. I'm going to have them clean it for you. And here's what's like. It's the person, executive mindset. Again, that is a theme in all of my talks. But executive mindset.
Yeah.
How do you have somebody that can take something simple and realize that you need help beyond the item that you've given them to check off the list? I also very much acknowledge that executive assistants are not the cheapest kids on the block,
Well,
right?
they shouldn't be though.
Right, right. So, and that's also part of it for people who know they need executive assistant support. It's also like, ooh, but I can only afford an assistant. But are you doing yourself a disservice because you're spinning your wheels with an assistant?
Yeah.
Because you're not getting what you need. Yes, because you're spending more time giving instruction.
That's right.
So did you have that mindset with your business from the beginning? Or did you do a lot of entrepreneurs, founders will like try to do all the things? Did you recognize immediately that when you needed help?
So this is actually my second business. I had a social media agency before. So I had a team of contractors that help run that and make it happen. Walking into this business was a little different because I didn't have as much disposable income, we'll call it, to work with, because I knew I had to be able to pay the EAs first. Right. And so I was like, I'm not doing the work every day. I'm not the one supporting the clients every day. So I probably was doing way more than the average bear. But I also happen to have a team of executive assistants around me who would step in and be like, let me help you with this, or let me proof this for you, or let me schedule this for you, or help you get it together. So I was very lucky from the standpoint of I had
people
around me,
Right.
because I've never been an EA, right? So I think part of the challenge for a lot of people starting companies is that they're the person doing the work because they love the work. And then you get into, how do I delegate it? How do I make it happen?
Right. How do you scale it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a lot of businesses. I mean, I'm one of them of I did the work and then, okay, now I need to scale myself.
Yes.
You came in and said, no, here's an idea, here's a gap, here's a void. I'm going to hire the people to do the work. But because you've kind of been removed, it's not like you were an executive assistant with 5 of your clients.
Right.
And then said, okay, I'm going to hand it off to somebody.
Right.
And then you've got that weird transition period of, I need Kenzie. Where's Kenzie?
Yes. Although I still
Why isn't Kenzie on this phone call? Why isn't Kenzie calling me back?
Although I still got it, right? Right. So here's the funny part. So like, I've never been an EA, right? You don't want me to be your EA. I'm dyslexic. I don't do well with reoccurring tasks. Like, I can come in and come up. Here's an idea. Here. That's it. But especially in the early days when I was the one doing all the sales, there were people like, oh, so I'm going to send you my task to do. And I was like, no. No, you have Mary Lou over here and she's going to handle it. No, like, you're doing it. Like, no, she's doing it.
Yeah.
So helping clients understand that, especially at the beginning, having a leadership team definitely makes a difference. But even then, I mean, for everything you're saying, even though I was not doing the work, even building out a leadership team, the process of watching somebody come into their own, and like you have to sit there and watch them make mistakes.
Oh.
And you're like, like, can we just get to the end of this? Or like, oh, this is like, hello, we just spent $500 that we did not need to be spending because I'm trying to let you learn a lesson or feel empowered. Yeah. So even that's a dance, just building a leadership team and like when I need to step in. I also compare it to, this is bad, but truthful. I compare it to, even though I do not have children, the 3-year-old learning how to put on their coat by themselves and how they get to that space of like, I can do it. Don't touch the coat. Like, I feel like you experience that with leadership teams because when you have a small business, you're not recruiting from corporations. Like it's everybody learning in real time together. So, you know, when you have your 3-year-old, your leadership team trying to learn how to put on the coat, and you're like, let me help you with the coat. You're like, I got the coat. Like it's this whole, it's a whole thing.
But we have an appointment. We're running late. Let's get out the door.
Right. Yeah. But you have to be like willing to stand there and watch them put on the coat.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Which is a learned skill for sure.
That's
a very good analogy.
Lots of patience.
Yes. Yes.
So as you're looking at, you know, you're getting that first round of funding in. When you talked about, so what do you think the biggest challenge was of one, you made the decision. That was a hard challenge. Now going through that process, what are lessons learned of, man, if I would have known about this, I would have done something differently?
Where to start? Okay, so the biggest lesson, and this was really, let's just call it what it was. It was a real mindfuck for me that I was like, my mother's probably going to watch this. Okay. Anyway, so
she'll appreciate that.
It was a real mind boggle for me. But when our lead investor said to me, anybody you're talking to, you're presenting an opportunity to them. And they should be selling themselves to you just as much. Like you're presenting an opportunity and you're giving them the chance to invest in your company and what you have going on in you. You're not out selling the company. You are simply presenting an amazing opportunity. And it like, now I can say it and I'm like, yeah. But when he first said that, I was like, oh.
Well, that's a different way of presenting everything.
Is your mind a little blown right now?
Yeah. Well, I like the mindfuckness.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
It like that took a long time to sink in. Because you're so used to like, I got to be out here begging for money.
Yeah. Well, so how did that switch your pitch or your presentation? Because that's like flipping it in a whole different direction.
I feel like when lots of people are raising money, you're spending time, like, yes, it's still a hustle. But when people stopped responding to me, I wasn't like, no, you need to invest in me. Like, where are you? And like, it took some of the desperation away. And it was like, okay, I just need to find the right people that understand the value. I also need to find the right people that I want to work with for multiple years and like want to be accountable to for multiple years because it's not all easy conversations.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's a second big thing. Our lead investor was like, I don't want to hear about the good stuff. I don't want to hear about the exciting stuff you think is coming down the road. I want to hear about the hard stuff that you have going on. So like one of our conversations, I was like, we got to go find a new marketing company. And like being very honest about where we screwed the pooch before and finding a marketing. That is a horrible saying now that I say it out loud. Anyway.
I always liked it, actually.
But, you know, being willing to have those hard conversations with somebody too. Like we all think we have the next major opportunity coming down the road and we're all very excited about it. And, you know, some of them work out, some of them do not. So how do you change your mindset to this person's here to help me? They've seen a lot of what I've seen. How do I have just those, like, let's talk about the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And it's also sitting in discomfort, which that was a lesson. Luckily, I'd started learning before this process. But I feel like any entrepreneur who's going to do fundraising and because you're really absorbing all these people as part of your business and part of your team. How do you learn to sit in discomfort? Because not every conversation is going to be daisies and sunflowers and unicorns dancing across the sky.
And they're peering in. It's like they're looking under the hood.
Yeah. I mean, talking to my leadership team, like you're not just accountable to me anymore. It's not just us having conversations about numbers anymore. You have what will probably end up being like 6 investors who are looking at everything and questioning your ability to do your job. So can you justify, do you understand what you're doing and why and how, which, you know, one of our core values is being a student of your craft. But we as a small business have now instituted an executive education series. So they're starting off with finance, but we'll move into the next series. And it's like, you can't skate by. Like, I work in the small business. It's no biggie.
Yeah.
No, like.
Well, and also that's interesting, like the dynamic, so not only you're trying to build a leadership team
Mm-hmm.
and building that culture and those kind of personalities, and you're scaling that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's that friction
Yes.
and dynamic. But then you're also bringing on these investors of now, okay, I chose you to be a part of the leadership team pre-funding.
Yes.
So now there's a whole different dynamic of friction
Mm-hmm.
of you guys got to step up, or I'm assuming that's what's happening of you need to step into this.
We got to be able to leapfrog what we were doing before. So, I was preparing my team for a $10 million business 6 to 8 years down the road.
Yeah.
Now we're preparing for a $22 million business 3 years down the road.
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
that's a huge difference. And one of my golden rules is I don't want anybody ever to walk away from my company and go apply to another company that's the same revenue and them to look at them and be like, how the hell did you get that job? Like, it makes no sense that you had that position.
Yeah.
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 And we don't have the same resources as a corporation from a learning perspective or learning path perspective. But when we get down to it, like, how many CEOs of a corporation have the time to stop and learn and discuss these things? So we as small businesses do hold the power there as far as how we develop and motivate and move people forward.
So, like, what other relationships are changing as you're going down this funding path?
Mm-hmm.
You said it's changed your relationship to your team,
Mm-hmm.
obviously your relationship to your money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what else? What are the other
Right.
changes?
Right.
I like this money.
No, I already watched every dime. Like, my team will tell you, my COO was talking to a new hire and she was like, oh no, you don't need to worry about getting paid on time because Kenzie watches every penny like a hawk. She will always make sure there is money. Like, we're never just going to overspend or do something just because. She's like, no. Yeah.
That's a good rep.
Yes. Yeah. Like, I'm all about where's the revenue? Where's the margins?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
So many things have changed. So one, it's like friends and family, right? Because they see you in a certain light, you know. You have people who are like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur too, so I can just take more time off. And I'm like, have I misled you? Like, when I'm standing over here on my phone, I'm not checking social media. Like, I'm working all the time. So it's also like the friends and family acceptance of like, oh yeah, like Kenzie, like I see you're doing something, but what the hell is she doing? And like, what's going on? And why is she snapping at people randomly? But it's like, it's also the pressure of, I'm going to say this, there, maybe backlash, may not. The world is not really set up for successful women.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also that change and pressure of.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, in what ways, darling?
In what ways do you?
Because you're all like, I know.
Yeah, we know.
I mean, so many ways. So, I mean, just even the pressure of like maintaining the house and cooking and like the list of things that women keep in their heads that other individuals do not
There's
keep.
a study on this. Is a New York Times article. I was like, this is the thing.
Yes.
I have not known how to say this to you.
Yes.
But this is the thing.
Yes. So, I mean, I find myself in a place of how much do you hire out? Like, how much support do you need in order to work at this capacity? Like, that's my big thing right now. What do I need to do for myself personally? Which I was telling you earlier, like, I have a trainer now named Frank who tries to kill me 3 times a week. But it's like, what health-wise do I need in order to maintain this capacity? What sleep quality do I need? What supplements do I need?
Right.
What can I eat? What can't I eat? All those things, like, there's that base level. Which you get like the male entrepreneurs who are like, I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning and I meditate on a rock by a hillside and I go home to my fresh made smoothie. And I'm like, who's doing that for you? Like, who's making your life able to do that? So it's, it's all the things of what do I need to continue to function in this capacity? Like, how is the laundry getting done? How is the house getting clean? And now going through this process of like hiring out everything, which then completely changes your household budget. And as an entrepreneur, you're like, how much do I pay myself in this process? And also needing a team and needing people that are doing the other aspects of the work. So there's so many complexities there that people
when you throw
don't
in
talk
kids
about.
And,
I don't have kids, which in some ways I'm like, whew, because I can't I can't imagine right now throwing a child into the mix and that struggle between if you feel guilt for neglecting the company versus guilt for not being there for something with the kids.
And you and I had this, I don't know if it was you and I had this conversation, I think so, but of when you have a partner, spouse, or whatever, to ask the question early on in your relationship of, are you going to be okay if I make more money than you as a woman? Are you going to be okay if I am not just the breadwinner, but if what I call the hive, that not only am I the queen bee as a but I am literally the hive does not function.
Who has the presence to have that conversation early in their relationship?
She did. I did.
So, and I think the question I left out.
Okay, how far were you on your endeavors?
First date.
No, on your professionally, like your professional. How far along?
About 3 years in.
Okay, so you knew.
I still didn't have two dimes.
But I'm just saying,
together.
But you knew where you were going. You know what I'm saying? Like
I knew where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of women hold themselves back.
Yeah.
Right. So I remember having a conversation with this woman once who just met me, and she was talking about like needing to date guys who are very successful and blah, blah, blah. And she was an entrepreneur. And I was like, oh, and then she was like, yeah, I'll never date a guy who makes less money than me. I was like, oh, so you're not serious about growing your business.
Oh, right.
And the whole table was like,
she just sucked the air out of the room. Yeah.
But I'm like, if you're putting those limitations on yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You're just going to have to dump him every time you make an advance.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so I told you I had our first date. I was like, if I'm angry, feed me or make me take a nap.
Right.
I'm giving you the cheat code here. 2, are you okay with the LGBTQ community? Because if you're not, this ain't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And 3, are you okay with me making more money than you? Because if not, this isn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, I married someone who was like, that's really an issue? And I was like, heck yes. But I think the question we need to also be asking is like, are you okay if I'm not the one taking care of the household?
Right.
Are you okay if I'm not cooking every night? Because I have friends who are very successful who feel guilt around like not being the one to clean the house.
Well,
I'm like,
I'm one of them. I mean, it's been a transition for our marriage. I mean, those conversations, entrepreneurship, owning anything was not even my purview.
That's what I was curious about.
But I was always the breadwinner.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't an issue, but it was like, you talk about a marriage dynamic of when I started the company, and it was really exciting. And it's like, okay, we're both, doing this. But then the dynamic of I can't be the lead parent.
Yeah.
So we have to have conversation like, you have to be the lead parent today. And now it's, even shifted to more of like, it's not even today. It is you are
the lead
parent, and my kids have now almost endearingly have teased him, but they like he's the house husband.
But that's not a thing for women,
job,
which is a major function. And he's had to go. That's other people have looked at it and said outside optics of that's negative. He's taken it. I'm like, what opportunity for a man to have? He was like, I get to spend more time with the kids. I have freedoms that no other peer in his, social peer group or his friend peer group doesn't have. But he's recognized that that's a benefit. But it's one of those of, but boy, how more successful could I be if I still don't have? But I'm still the one that still has to really worry about some of the, I would call them household details.
Yeah.
Right.
Of
you're managing the household.
the organization, making sure that, hey, this stuff needs to happen. The kids, then he does it. He makes it happen. But it's still mind.
Yeah.
It's still space in my mind all day that we have to talk about versus flip it.
There's an expectation that you would just do it.
That if it were, he was running the business, how much like the house and everything else would be way more. So I look at, I've had these conversations with other female founders and stuff of how much how much further catapulted would we be if I had, this might come out and sound wrong, but if I had an actual wife.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a wife.
Yeah.
That performs like a,
Yeah. Oh, we've had this conversation in my house.
And of like, I want, and so that's, sometimes I tease, to tease my husband of, boy, I'd sure love to have a wife.
I mean,
because I think, and he's like, well, yeah, go find one.
I have big hopes for future generations that they will figure this out and hold men to the same standards, because Why is there even a saying, I need a wife?
Right.
Right.
Why isn't it just like, I just
I
need the
need a
right partner
person.
who can
Right.
help?
Right.
Who takes that heavy lifting.
Because women are the majority of the breadwinners in this country.
That's right.
So the fact that there's still
I
this
think
disconnect.
What I think
Yeah.
will happen way sooner than that, and like to your point, we've had a few friends stay at home, and my husband during COVID stayed at home, and he was just like, when I hear him talk about it, he's like, "This has been amazing," because we homeschooled for that time, and but I think what'll probably change faster is what's already happening now, where the professional situation, the work situation, those expectations shift. So I honestly see that happening way faster before we get out of our heads about what we should be doing at home, and because those gender things are just constantly reinforced on so many subtle levels by women as much as men.
Yes.
So I think it's going to be the workplace, the business world situation that changes and makes it, I don't know, more accommodating, so that you don't have to hold back.
And we as women have to make it better for each other, because I think the women
100%.
guilt. So
yeah.
I'm lucky I grew up in a household where my mom had a corporate career my entire life. She was traveling a lot. We had, God bless my father, he is not a cook. Traditional guy from the stereotype perspective that we're talking about here, and he worked too, right? So it's not like he was just home taking care of us. He had a career working.
Right.
So there was a decision to get a housekeeper at a point in time when I was young. And my mom was like, I'd rather wear the same 3 suits every day of the week and have somebody who can help take care of the
Do
house.
the stuff
and
that I don't want to do.
So I don't have to come home and clean or spend my day off cleaning.
Right.
And also because if it's not clean, it's going to bother you.
Yes.
Right.
So it's not just like clean house. It's like clean house so I can have peace of mind about my family, about my stuff, so I can have a space to come to.
And it's probably going to
That
bother
works.
you sometimes more than...
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or just, or as my, because I came up, both my parents work, they work like fiends. And my mom always had she was a neat freak. But she would also kind of coach us to go, you're going to just have to have the mindset of those dust bunnies are okay because you're doing something that is more important.
Yeah.
Don't let it stress you out.
And work was different then too, right? So when you think about, you didn't take work home the same way. Like you didn't
That's
have this
right.
device on
I
your
was about to
hip
say, it wasn't in your pocket
No,
all the time.
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, work is going to work, right? Like I'm that person.
Yeah.
My mom and I very similar in like
We don't turn off.
drive.
Same
Right.
here.
Right. I keep saying my dream is to have a butler one day because
I'm still not 100% clear on what a butler does.
so I always think of Jeffrey from Fresh Prince. Like
Yeah.
he cooked, he cleaned, he would drive
did
them
everything.
places. Yeah, like somebody just kind of
So,
do it
yeah,
all.
so
He
like
was a house
household
manager.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
what, yeah.
Yes.
Which is what a lot of the celebrities now talk about. Of like
Yes.
they've got PAs, their personal
Mhm.
assistants, but they also have house managers that take care of everything
That's
in the
thing.
household, like from
Yes.
bills
Right.
to invites. I mean, almost like an executive assistant,
Mhm.
but for the home.
Yeah, but I need one who cooks and
Well, yeah.
helps tidy.
That's
Yes.
right.
So
Yeah.
do butlers cook? Like that's the part I'm fuzzy on. Like, do butlers cook?
They
Or
could
do
if-
they get the
if
cooks
He did
to
on
cook?
Fresh Prince.
Right.
He made
He-
dinner every night and breakfast.
Well, also wasn't the
I don't
very
know why I wasn't paying close
Jeffrey
enough
is my
attention to
guiding light
Jeffrey.
for
I
what
or was
all
it Billy
butler is.
Crystal's
I was all about Will.
character on Soap? Wasn't he
Oh.
the butler? He cooked,
Yeah.
he cleaned. Yeah.
Oh, and then there was Mr. Belvedere.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And what was the one with like the governor on there? Was that Mr. Belvedere? Or another one? There was like an old show with the governor on like his daughter, but the butler did everything.
You know what? I don't really pay attention to the parents. No, I don't think that was Mr. Belvedere.
Oh,
But
okay.
like the grown-ups, other than
Oh,
him,
what is
like
that show?
are
Now it's going to
long
drive me
Yeah.
crazy
But,
what that
yeah.
show is.
people in the
The
background.
butlers do. Yeah,
yeah.
I need.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
Okay. Just
We're
I'm
gonna
making
bring-
life goals here.
we're gonna
I'm
bring it
writing
back-
my
we're
list
gonna
of
bring it
life
back.
goals here.
Right? Or someone creates like,
A
No.
Worxbee, but for butlers.
well, or an adult
Works butler. New
what you
brand.
call it, an adult home ec class, because I feel like they stopped teaching home ec. Like, if I could like,
There is one. It's called like YouTube,
Home ec.
Pinterest.
no, we need some hands-on training here. Believe me.
You've learned.
Yeah.
You're the expert. I'll take your word on it.
But I also think there's a lot more husbands who probably would appreciate
Oh, yeah,
being
yeah.
a house husband, but like they were never expected to learn
That's
these
right.
things.
They
so
don't know.
yeah.
And I think it's like you said, breaking down those barriers
Mm-hmm.
it's because it's the friends and family optics
that are gonna
more
harass
than
them.
anything.
Yes.
That I mean, we like you said, you have friends that go, "What do you do?" or family, "What do you?" So you have more freedom. I have to repeat what I do all the time
Oh
to
yeah.
both friends and family. They don't understand entrepreneurship or small business ownership.
It wasn't until I started getting press that mine completely understood.
Okay.
But then also, so I was gonna go back and flip the table. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I mean, who do you feel like your husband got the most resistance from when he started being the house husband? Because I know it wasn't you or your kids necessarily, but that's the other thing I think men have to deal with. Like, it's more about their friends
It was.
and family.
I think it was more of probably his family that questioned it. Of like, well, that's nice and all, but like, what are you doing to contribute to the
Yeah,
household? You're still in control, right?
Which
You still have power, right?
they would never ask these questions about you.
No.
Because you're not
That's
supposed
right.
to have control or
Right.
power.
So that's what I'm saying. Some of those words
Right.
are just not good words.
I'm like, so world, listen to us.
That's right. Because he was excited about it, but then when you get those reverse misogynistic,
Yeah.
that becomes a dynamic and friction of he starts questioning of, well, where is my power? How do I insert that? And it's like, calm down.
Right.
See, that's why I think it's going to be an external change that happens faster, because the thing is that the domestic world doesn't have, it's valuable. All that work is valuable regardless of who does
Yes.
it.
That's right.
So it's not so, I mean, it's like the
There should be gender
devaluation-
neutral.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Completely
it's the
gender neutral.
devaluation
That's
of
right.
that makes it, well, no, I don't want to be the one. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
don't call me a housewife. Don't call me a house husband. you
Right.
know?
Right.
And that's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, even when you look at the history of it, like, men are taught to delegate more than women are. Hence why
Yeah.
we're running around doing it all ourselves.
That's right. Without guilt.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yes.
that's what it is. We're taught to delegate. We love to delegate. It's the guilt that holds us back, or the control of, if they're not going to do it as good as me, versus men are like, hey, if it's 60% there, I don't give a crap.
But it's also that household and friends pressure of, if you do delegate it, well, it's not as good as you.
Yeah.
Or you would do it. And it's like, why do I have to carry this burden? You can learn how to do it. Like, yeah.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, we are right. How did that happen?
I know. We could actually. I have one more question for you, Kens. So now you're shifting into this. Okay, you're going to go from an accelerated small business, right? From a small business owner, and this kind of goes into so we talk about words like entrepreneur, founder, small business owner, innovator. Where do you see yourself in that spectrum?
Yeah. I mean, so thanks to EOS, I feel very firmly planted in the idea of being a visionary, because it's the person who solves the big problems. It's the person who has the big ideas. Also, we've been doing a lot of personality assessments in Worxbee, working on how we want to set up personality assessments for our EAs and our clients to pair them. So it's interesting to me, like, a lot of people want to be visionaries, right? But I also think a lot of people want to be visionaries because they see it as, I don't have to work as hard, and like, I can kind of chill, and I just show up when they need.
I'll just think big thoughts, and
right.
other people will be the hands.
And I think it's much more complex than that, because I think, one, it's very scary to be a visionary if you're throwing out all these random ideas and things out into the world where people are like, why did she come up with that? Like, who told her to say that out loud? But you're always, right? You're always challenging the opinion of what's happening, and willing to take bold steps. And lots of times people aren't ready for those steps. My first several years of Worxbee were people not being ready for what we were presenting. And all of a sudden, a pandemic, and people are like, oh yeah, like that. We need that. So I definitely feel more a visionary space, and just working on, one, how do I come to accept who I am as a visionary? Because it has been a journey personally. It's also, I said earlier, I'm dyslexic. I didn't learn I was dyslexic until I was 39.
Oh.
So, also understanding that as far as how my brain operates and how I solve problems, because I had to be able to keep up with everybody in school, and basically
Right.
condition myself there and didn't even know I was conditioning myself for it.
Mm.
But I would say, like, beyond everything else, like, yes, I'm a founder. Yes, I'm a CEO, wife, sister, daughter, all that fun stuff. But it
Right.
really is the vision of how do I help bring solutions? How do I help create processes and thoughts and products that really help us move forward as a country, that help us think about the future of work,
Mhm.
but that also really takes pride in helping others and creating an overall community
Yeah.
and ecosystem, because I do believe in abundance, and that there's enough abundance for all. And if we all walk through life believing there's enough abundance and not focusing on scarcity and fear, we can do so much better about how we embrace and move the country forward, and call on the visionaries to help us think about moving it forward.
Right.
So,
Oh, amen to
Yeah.
that. That's perfect.
That's nice.
Well, thank you.
Kenzie.
Yeah.
thank
Okay.
you.
So to learn more, worxbee.com,
.com.
WORX.
Yes.
And B like buzz.
Yep. BEE.
yeah.
Like
Like a
buzzing
buzzing
beehive
bee.
of activity.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I mean, we could do a whole other hour.
I know. And if you want to listen to this wonderful podcast, Hello Chaos Podcast, it's available on all podcast platforms everywhere. If you also want to watch us,
Scary. But
I
yes.
know. You
Oh, there was a
There's
thunder,
we
right?
got
right?
that's right. The gods.
Do
that's
not
right.
miss this thunder, people.
Right?
Get
But-
on the line.
But you can watch us on orangewhip.com. That's the parent media company. Or you can watch or listen in what we call our City Innovate scenes, which we have rolled out in 3 South Carolina cities: GVLinnovates.com,
Greenville,
ChazInnovates.com,
Charleston,
and ColaInnovates.com.
Columbia.
So check it out. Also, subscribe, comment, engage with us also across our social. We want to hear.
Yeah.
We want to hear what you'd like to hear as we explore the messy lives
Of
and messy
entrepreneurs.
minds of entrepreneurs and
So
founders and innovators. But thank you, Kenzie. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Thank you, ladies and gents.
Thank you.